30-40% of my work is AI involved in it. Some AI helping me do my work.
Sure.
I think it's going to go all the way to 50-60% in the next couple of years.
Welcome to the Elevating Leaders series, where we go beyond the headlines and straight to the people who are redefining insurtech and business transformation. We've caught up with the visionaries and the pioneers that are currently driving the industry forward, bringing you exclusive insights, strategies, and stories you won't hear anywhere else. If you're ready to go deeper, this is your front row seat to the future of insurance. I'm Miguel Edwards, and this is 5 Minutes.
Santosh, thank you so much for joining us here on another episode of 5 Minutes. Appreciate you taking your time out of this busy ITC agenda, I'm sure you have.
Yes, it's been crazy.
So I was looking at your background, and it's like, the guy comes from Apple. First off, I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna have a technology conversation with somebody from Apple, right?
Yeah.
But you're now in the insurance industry.
Yes.
And so how did you get sucked into this vortex from Apple?
Oh, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, I imagine.
So it's a long story. One of my co-founders from my previous company and I used to go to school together. After I graduated, he and I tried, like any aspiring technologist and a business person, we tried several companies in the 2005 to 2010 period. And then we realized at the time, none of them every one of those concepts was like a great idea, but poor execution. Because we just didn't have the brain space to go do a full-time job and do this at the same time. So we did like 3 or 4, and then we was like, this is not the right time. Let's go live a life and then come back in 5 years and then check in, right?
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, he's called me and he said, I think now's the time. We're never going to do it if it's not now. And at the time, we didn't even know what we were going to do, but we knew we wanted to do something in the insurance space because it felt like all the things that he and I were talking about, I get excited about from a technology perspective, are not even in the insurance radar at the time. That's changing right now. But at the time, we were working on machine learning models and things at Apple and stuff. And we were like, they were not even talking about it in the insurance space. Not even the steps to get to that, So get to the machine learning type things. This was like 2016, 17. I wasn't, to be completely honest, I didn't know anything about insurance. I didn't even have life insurance at the point. I was not. What I did have was this like optimism that it's like sort of foolish to think back that I could come and make a big splash and make a difference, right? But as we started that company and we got into, oh my goodness, so many pivots, so many learnings. But the good thing about that company is we always added value in whichever client situation we got in.
Okay.
But from an engineering perspective, I feel like, oh man, I look back and we were trying to be everything for every single client, So that was one of those things I always take back and say, you need to have a lane that you can stick to.
Yeah.
It is so exciting when you're coming out of a corporate job to be like, that problem, there's that problem, there's that problem. I want to solve all of it. I can do it in 2 months.
Yep.
And then what happens if you keep saying that is your team ends up growing to be like 60 people team where all of them are working on completely different things and you're just running 7 different projects.
Right.
That's not, it's that sort of, and then it took us a while to get out of that mess and actually build a platform. It's just one of those things that I feel like all the builders who turn into founders, especially in an industry like this, where it's very consulting driven, they end up doing that.
So do I hear right that your organization started off as a consultancy, but then you found a platform?
No, we started as a machine learning platform.
Okay.
Machine learning models for insurance companies, and to host the disability models, basically.
Okay.
Auto adjudication, fraud, assignment, and all of that stuff across the disability claim suite. And in order to host them and maintain them, at the time there was not infrastructure available, so we built an infrastructure. And along the way, we also did several different things because they were all exciting. If you felt like, if you start looking at everything from a data perspective, everything has a common core. Like I can connect all the data together. But what we were missing in that whole experience is they were all run by different verticals internally by insurance companies.
Yeah.
So you are talking to several different ICPs at the same time, and you're trying to be everything for all of those people. And then when we figured that out, we're like, no, I don't want to do this. I actually want to serve the infrastructure. There's a data problem in insurance companies. If they're going to be setting up an organization that's future looking, machine learning ready, AI ready, they need to address the data problem first, right? So that's sort of where we focused on and built an infrastructure that was repeatable and scalable. And that's sort of where we ended up.
So that takes us to where we are today.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about your current organization and what that platform offers.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Stitch Studio.
Okay.
Stitch is an AI platform, like every other company.
Yeah, right. We're going to dive into that a little bit. Yeah.
It's an AI platform driven by the thesis that AI agents and assistants needs to be very narrow.
Okay.
In order to be effective, and they need to be taught organizational context.
Okay.
Right. If you ask ChatGPT to look at a document and answer questions, it'll be akin to asking somebody walking down the street to look at your claims form and make a decision. Right. Like that's basically what if you average out every opinion and knowledge that you have, that's what ChatGPT does. That's not what you want for your organization. It may work for today, but it won't work for a decade from now.
Sure.
So in order to get to that decade where you have an organization that has a language model specifically tuned to you, representing you as an organization, you need to start from a place where each use case that you develop has a context associated with it, and that's systematically maintained and uploaded into a system that can be forward-looking and used for bigger use cases. That's the thesis. If you think about like where we are today, there's a lot of like vertical solutions that are coming up. And vertical solutions are great. It'll give you what you want today.
Right.
Very quickly, but if you look at what happened in the early 2000s in the insurance industry, there were lots of shiny new toys, right?
Yeah.
We ended up getting one for new business, one for quoting, one for policy and claims and all of that. So, and then we spent the next couple of decades trying to connect all of them, which is sort of the trajectory we were heading into if you go down that path. So what my thesis is that you have to start with a common core platform core AI platform that allows you to take the organization's context. This is another thing that sort of comes to my mind too as I'm in the middle of my chain of thought, is if you want to go to a future where each organization has their own language model and that can represent them and be their agent, you're not going to get to that future by building vertical vendors and doing that, right? You have to get to that future by getting individual teams intuitions into what's digitized way.
Sure.
So if you can help, the way to do that would be to help individual teams gain more productivity, and in order to do that, they have to tell an agent how they think.
Okay.
And if I keep doing this over several use cases, now you have enough context that you can create fine-tune a language model using that represents your organization.
I'm going to get a little technical here and then way over my skis super fast.
Yeah.
So bear with me, because now I'm struggling with the notion of enterprises building not necessarily their own LLM frameworks, but the notion of training their own LLM models. And I remember when I first started investigating AI, a matter of fact, one of the first places I went to was an OpenAI conference.
Yeah.
And the founders were talking about the fact that, building your own LLM is nuts. You're never going to be able to, you don't have the scale to train these models. Yeah. So what's the magic trick then behind what you're talking about?
So LLMs are getting commoditized really fast.
Okay.
Right? So there's going to be a handful of them. We don't know who the winner is going to be, but it's going to get commoditized really fast. Kind of like the cloud wars of the last decade.
Yep.
I feel like I like what Sam Altman said, right? Which is, if you guys are creating a company that'll be happy when the next model that gets released, that gets better, then you're fine. You're adding value to someone, and that'll be great. But you don't want to compete on the commoditized space, right? So the where organizations need to be at the layer on top.
Got it.
And if you think about what will get them that competitive edge on the layer on top is obviously data. We've been saying that for the past 2 decades. That's great. We'll keep saying that.
Right.
And the other is, how do I get individual teams organizational memory, like the context? How do I behave in these situations? How do I think about claims that look like this, right? Like, how do you want to respond to a customer who's calling me like this, right? Like, so those are all individual people making decisions on a minute-by-minute basis, and that's something that if you start building AI around it and start tracking that,
right.
How do I behave in these situations? That becomes part of your contextual data, not like data you operate on.
Right.
This is like, you can think of it as like behavioral data of employees and your organization. So if you put these two together, then you will end up with a layer that you can use to fine-tune your language model that's commoditized, and it becomes yours in a way. Right?
Got it.
Like it's tuned to you.
So let me make sure I captured that. So we're not talking about building an LLM from scratch.
No.
So we take one of the, whichever of the commoditized versions, and then we're using your technology and your
correct.
kind of processes, your thought processes, to then tune that so it has the contextual relevance to the organization.
Exactly right.
Got it. Now I'm tracking.
Yes.
As you're doing that, Santosh, one of the things that, today I learned, I was talking to another AI evangelist, and we were discussing this concept around the explainability. Right. So in that context, as you're thinking about organizational behavior, and then to the extent that we use these models to arrive at decisions, how's your organization thinking about the kind of the transparency and the explainability?
The EDs of the AI.
Yeah.
There's explainability, auditability, traceability,
right.
observability. Yeah. All of those have a different facet. Explainability is interesting because if you think about AI by nature, ML models in nature, they're not explainable. Like, so you have to build them specifically for them. But language models, in my opinion, have made them a little easier. So you can ask it to reason about why it answered it a certain way.
Yeah.
Explainability comes from a few different layers. The most simplest form of explainability comes from being transparent about what did you use to come up with this response. Right. If you the way that I tell my team is, if you want to give it the whole world and ask it to reason about something, that's a whole corpus of data. It's not going to be, it might give you something, but it's not going to be consistently good. You want to figure out the right amount of data that it needs to reason through to come up with the answer. So if you can be transparent about what data that the language model is using to reason, that's one simplest way of explaining why it did something. Because if I tell you, here's what the language model said, and here's the data it used it, you could reason through why it said that. Right? Like, that's, from a user perspective, it's pretty clear. And the other type is like reasoning through why, right? Like, so if you're making a recommendation, don't just make a recommendation, reason through why you're making that recommendation. Even on a ChatGPT level, it works really well. But if you think
you're going to have to tell me about how to do that, because I'm telling you, this is no lie. I got into a full-on argument with ChatGPT because it was being very respectful back to me, of course. But I asked it a question. It gave me an answer that was very different than the question I asked it. And then I said, why did you give me this response? Because I wanted to understand I thought there was something wrong with my prompt. And then it says, I'm sorry. I thought you blah, 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 blah. I will do better next time. I was like, no, I don't want you to apologize. I want you to tell me why it is that you made this call. And I couldn't have a reasonable conversation with it.
Yeah, like, I'm a productivity nerd. So I try to think about how I can not do the work that I do a lot. So every time I come up with, I've trained an assistant for different parts of my workday, like where I use it pretty widely. And I always ask it to explain, what did you use to make this decision for me?
Interesting.
Right? Explain your logical reasoning step by step and show it to me. Right? Like, so in the initial prompt, I always say, think through logically step by step. How do you come up with that step?
Okay, so it's still in the prompting.
Yes, it's still very prompt engineering.
Yeah.
But what they said in the latest OpenAI 01 is that you don't have to do that. It already does that.
Fascinating.
So I'm curious how that's going to change. I haven't started playing around with 01 quite a lot. because it's still in its very early stages, so you kind of have to figure out how you work with multiple models at the same
Sure.
time. But it's, yeah.
As you think about the kind of the progression of AI, kind of what's next, and let's tie that specifically into your work and your product in the industry. Where's it going? What's in your crystal ball?
AI coworkers are going to become a part of our daily life. It's already happening. I mean, 30-40% of my work is AI involved in it. Like some AI helping me do my work.
Sure.
I think it's going to go all the way to 50-60% in the next couple of years.
Okay.
I think the way that it's changed, right? Like since it came to now, like last ITC to this ITC, it feels like last ITC I developed like this bot and I was showing it to people, like saying like, is this interesting? Would you buy it? Kind of like that.
Yeah.
They all gave me great feedback. That's why I decided to start the company. But there was a lot of hesitation. It's like, I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
like it's great, it's fun, but I don't. But this year they're a lot more bullish about it. They are all convinced. Like I feel like the whole industry is convinced that AI is coming and we're going for it. It's just a matter of when and how much.
Right.
Right. So if you think about from a insurance industry perspective, operations is probably the biggest impact in the next 3-4 years. And timing exactly when that's going to be is hard, but I feel like operations is absolutely the right way to approach it too, because that's like the neural network of your organization. You kind of have to figure that out.
Right.
And that will sort of have effect across your value chain, even customer facing ones. So if I were to like figure out where I want to position the company so that it sort of has that arc, I think it's operations. And companies are going to start figuring out, how do I host multiple models? How do I do this in a way that it's not going to be a future bet? That's another problem too, because I've seen a lot of companies like, we're going to invest in AI, but investing in AI without ROI is a losing battle.
Of course.
Right? Like, so you have to figure out how to invest in AI while making sure that you're saving people's time and money today.
That's right.
So there's a delicate balance there.
Yep.
So this is where consulting companies are in their box, and it's like there's a space for everyone here. But
so tie that up with your product roadmap. What can we expect?
So from our perspective, we've built the base chassis that allows us to stand up individual agents. Our vision for the next, I would say 5-10 years, is go through individual organizations and figure out what their major bottlenecks and choke points are, and build agents for each one of them. And it needs to be very specific, small, narrow use cases that can be fine-tuned to their organizational context. And the more we build, the more will become like a army of agents that you can hire anytime you want.
So I can't help but think, Santosh, about the change management that's involved around the organizational adoption of these types of things.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about how you influence that from your product's perspective?
Yeah. One of the things that it's the second time founder syndrome, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I said when I started this company is I'm not going to build anything unless someone's willing to pay for it and actually having a conversation with me, ask me to build it. One of the things I've heard in the last 5 months consistently is that they don't want to go to another platform that is going to sit and tell me how to do things.
Okay.
Right? Like they want the agents to be working within their existing workflows. If you think about it from exactly, that's the word they've all said, like I want that embedded into my thing. That could mean different things for different people. If you think about it from a change management perspective, it's seamless. Like I don't want to know that AI is there. It just needs to work.
Right.
So if you're a tech-heavy organization that has APIs and knows how to work with it, we'll provide you APIs. You can use the AI-enabled decision-making. If you are a company that just wants to plop a widget within your claim system, sure, we can do that too. So it needs to have its technology-enabled change management. It needs to work through, it's not projects and slides and whatnot. It needs to actually built into the product you're building. It needs to think about how can they do the work without going through a 6 month of adoption.
Are you at all worried about the current state of talent in the insurance industry and the ability for us to round that curve?
Worried? No, I'm actually excited
Good, yeah.
because insurance used to be not mainstream. Now it's becoming mainstream.
Okay.
There are a lot more insurtechs coming up in this space, and it's also, I mean, it's not quite where we need to be for sure. But it also presents an opportunity for companies like me, right? Like so I could come in and say, hey, use my platform.
Yep.
You don't need IT. We will use as little of your IT's time as possible. And we'll make it as user-friendly and business-friendly as possible. So there's a shape where my product can go fit into that.
So I'm sorry, I've got to ask you an unscripted one here, because this is, you said something that's really kind of interesting, and you're talking to a former CIO.
Yeah.
But you said you don't need IT.
Yeah.
So as a former CIO, I'm like, wait, is that shadow IT? What's going on over there? So what's your conversation with me? I'm the CIO of the organization. You're bringing in all of this cool stuff that the business can kind of configure and work with. What's your conversation with the CIO?
Most of the time, what happens with the IT organizations in insurance industry, this is my perception, I would love for your take as well,
Sure.
is that IT organizations are not properly funded. And business wants a lot of things, and they are having conversations. They get excited by ITC just like everybody else, and they want to do things. And it sometimes becomes like a burden on the IT team to be like, okay, how am I going to support all of my backlog and this new fancy thing, right? So when I say IT friendly, what I mean is you need products that can work with the existing architecture and not tack on something new that the IT team has to manage.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
It needs to be something that the business team can own, but it works within the constraints put by the IT team.
Right. Not creating an additional support
exactly.
burden.
Yeah. My conversations with the IT team has been like, guys, we don't make any internet calls. We are airtight, private cloud, single tenant. We will install it, and you can manage it. You will have full access to it. We won't even access your data without getting explicit permission from you. And it's yours, right? Like, we will push product updates every month, and that's that.
Got it.
Right.
You gave me another product idea that I would have no idea how to do. So this is something product idea for you.
Oh, yeah.
How do we use AI to get rid of the legacy? Because I don't want to keep doing the legacy stuff supporting. I want to do what you're doing. I want to be on the cutting edge. I want, as a CIO, that's where I'd like to be. Would like to not have to maintain an AS400.
So it's funny, one of the POCs we're doing right now is extract product rules from policy documents and prospectus and make sure it matches with the AS400, like the cookbooks, it's called.
Okay.
Whatever the COBOL the COBOL programs. So if you think about what that involves, you have to understand the logic that's written in your mainframes. So if you can understand the logic that's written in the mainframes,
right,
it's not a black box anymore. You know what I mean? You can work with it. The other thing that I've seen a company, I've heard about it, I haven't done much research on it, is if you know the input and outputs of a system, AI can actually write the program for yourself.
Right, yeah.
By listening to what the inputs and outputs.
Right.
Fascinating.
It is.
Like, that's like trillions of dollars worth of work right there. It's just...
So there's the answer. There's the answer to our quandary. Now I can start working on cool stuff. I love it. Let's closing question here for Santosh. We are here at ITC. Lots of people, lots of vendors, lots of potential partnerships. What are you hoping to take home from your journey here?
Connections.
Yeah.
I'm as a founder. Again, I like building stuff. I like heads down work. Meeting people and talking to them is not my favorite thing to do. But I religiously spend the 2-3 days with ITC. Yeah. Try to make connect with as many people as I can. It's fun. It gives me the energy to go do what I want to do after. So, carriers, VCs, like brokers, agents, like all of them.
Podcasters.
Yeah, podcasters. Yeah. It's fun.
Good deal. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Santosh, I can't thank you enough for taking a great amount of time out of your busy schedule, and look forward to having you back as your product continues to develop.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.